Well, hello there and welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, the 30th of March, the most glorious weather. Shirt sleeves, you'd catch a tan if you stood in the sun with your face towards it, which is all very nice. And I'm doing what people like me often do at this time of year, which is called playing seedling and cutting Tetris. So other people play actual Tetris, but I play a more sophisticated game in that I have thousands and thousands of small plants which need to be moved on and rearranged all the time so that I've got room to sow more and room to plant out more at this time of year. And I'm not just potting up for myself. I'm also potting up for our Common Good plant sale, which is on the 10th of May. And if you're in southeast Somerset on the 10th of May, I can tell you there are 3 fantastic plant sales all happening at the same time within very short area of space between them. So there's ours in Cheltenham Musgrove, and we are raising, Cheltenham Musgrove is BA9 at our village hall. And we are raising money for a little tiny charity in Wincanton called The Growing Space, which is a gardening charity. Gardening charities are arguably, I think, the most valuable charities of all, giving people the opportunity to get out and get their hands in the earth if they need it. So we're raising money for The Growing Space, but also for my neighbour, Mamie, has a charity called The Treatment Bag, which gives bags of lovely things to people going through cancer treatment. And I know, because I have sent a friend one of these bags, how valuable they are. So you can go on the website and you can order one, but every time you order a bag, it will pay some money towards the free bags, which they deliver to all over the place. All kinds of hospitals take bags and bags and bags of things to cheer up people going through cancer treatment, which I think is such a valuable thing. We are also raising money for our village churches. We have 2, smallest village almost in Somerset, 2 churches to maintain. One of them is a 12th century church, St Stephen's, and one is St John's, which was built in the 19th century. So they always need a little bit of money to keep them going. And we're raising money for the village hall. But anyway, all good plant sales are raising money for one good cause or another. And I'm really keen on encouraging people, wherever they are in the world, to think about holding a plant sale in aid of their local gardening charity on or around the 10th of May. Because it may feel as though we're all going to hell in a handcart, but I think about this stuff all the time. There's so much we can't do anything about. So I take all the stuff that I can't do anything about, which could be bending me over and killing me. I take all of that stuff and I hand it over to the universe to deal with. But I can make a small difference in my own way. And that's why it's really worth holding a plant sale. And if all the people I have come across on social media over the years, if we all, or not even if we all, if a few of us all around the world hold a plant sale on or around the 10th of May, raising money for small local charities, imagine the ripple effect. You see? And imagine the difference that can make. So here I am on the 30th of March. Plant sale's not for another 6 weeks. But I am, for example, do you remember in the end of last summer, I took cuttings to overwinter, and they have overwintered all right. And so I'm now potting them up. And they're getting their individual pots. So here are some scented pelargoniums, for example. There are 3 of those now. And I'm pricking out a lot of seedlings. Look how small these are. Can you even see them? I don't know if you can you see those tiny little green dots? They are Nicotiana seedlings. So I'm pricking out and potting on, which is why I'm doing what's called, I call it seedling Tetris. So let's go and have a look at all the seedling Tetris and see if you might be inspired to hold a plant sale yourself. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, press the bell icon, and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. And if any of the tips and tricks are useful along the way, you can always buy me a coffee, or better still, join my club. Links to coffee buying and club membership are in the blurb to all my clips. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Now, this is a salvia, lovely bright red flowered salvia. And I've got it outside my back door, and I've had it for years. But every year I take a few cuttings in case it doesn't survive the winter for some reason or another. And these have been sitting, so I took these and they were tiny the end of last autumn, and I put them, 4 of them in this pot so that they would grow roots down the sides of the pots. And they've just sat there ever since. I have kept them damp, but not wet. So they've had a little bit of water. And you can see they've grown roots. Very simple process, taking cuttings. So do look back at my taking clips, because this is what you get. I mean, it's free plants. I've taken them all out of the pot, and I'm just going to split them really simply. So I'm holding them firmly, and I'm just going to push my thumbs in and gently pull the pull them apart. Look, you see? My pot's falling on the ground. Gentle pull. And yes, some of the roots are being pulled, but it doesn't matter. And then I've got 2. Gently pull. And then I've separated them. And I'll just show you how I pot them up. Now, the thing about Mothering Sunday, we have Mothering Sunday in the UK, and I appreciate that the rest of the world has Mother's Day in May. And we have Mothering Sunday in the UK, and it is actually based in the far off distant past on the Feast of Mother Church, which is always halfway through Lent. So it's like Easter, it's a movable feast. And traditionally, on Mothering Sunday, farm workers and servants were allowed the day off, only after church, obviously. They had to go to church first. And then they were allowed to go home for lunch to see their family, because particularly servants and people who worked in houses were needed at Easter to help with the Easter party. So they would go home on Mothering Sunday, and they would pick little tiny bunches of flowers from the hedgerows, like primroses and violets, and make tiny little posies, which would they give to their mums when they went home for lunch. And that's where the tradition of giving your mother flowers for Mothering Sunday comes from. TK. I haven't had any flowers today, but I don't mind. I made a posy for my mother-in-law, who lives in the tractor shed. There we are. Nice little salvia. And that's either for me, or if I see that all of my salvias in their pots outside the back door have survived the winter, then I will give that to the plant sale. So my mother-in-law has had a little bunch of flowers from me, but I'm very lucky. I've had a bottle of vermouth from my children, and Fabrizio's making ham and baked potatoes for lunch, which we'll have at tea time. We're very topsy-turvy in this house, and so at tea time I'll have a glass of vermouth, which I think will go very well with ham and baked potatoes. and celeriac remoulade. Anyway, so back in the day, so that's where Mothering Sunday came from originally. And so we still in the UK have Mothering Sunday on the third Sunday of Lent, halfway through Lent. And so it is my pleasure to spend it. I'm very lucky. I have managed to make a job for myself doing something which I really like. So what do I really like? I really like, if you think about it, if you're dreaming of setting up your own business, but you don't know what you would do, think about an activity that you really, really enjoy. And it doesn't have to be a direct activity that you really do. It's true that I really love standing here for hours pricking out seedlings. But I really like being in the garden, and I like being on my own. And none of my family are especially interested in pricking out seedlings or getting involved like this, which means I get to be on my own for most of Mothering Sunday. And it's sunny, and the birds are singing, and it's a lovely day. So I'm really enjoying that part. So yeah, I thought, what do I really enjoy doing in my life? I like being on my own. I like growing things from seed, which is why, although 15 years into being a flower farmer, I think I probably could save myself all of this seed sowing. And I'm sure I could just be a specialist grower of foliage and perennials for cut flowers. I definitely could. But I really like this part of my job, so I'm not going to give it up yet. Perhaps one day. I love playing seedling Tetris, but I could be a person who loves tidying up. I do quite like tidying up. I don't do very much in my house, because when I do, other people go and make it very untidy very quickly, but I do like tidying up. So I really appreciate, those people who have jobs where they go and sort out people's houses when they're very untidy. That lady who's on the telly going into people's houses and taking everything out and putting them in a warehouse and then helping them throw away 2/3 of it. I think that would be a great job. Anyway, so what did I do to make a job that I liked? I worked out that I really like pricking out and growing things from seed. I really like being on my own, and the ground here is very forgiving, and so things grow well, without too much difficulty. So I became a flower farmer, and it wasn't. I've been thinking about this. I've been writing the acknowledgements. Yesterday I wrote the acknowledgements for a new edition of The Flower Farmer's Year, which is a book I wrote some years ago, and I have completely rewritten it, and it's coming out in February 2026. And I was writing the acknowledgements, and I was thinking, and I might make a whole clip on this one day, but I think what one does in life is one learns things all the time, and then all of those things become transferable skills. So in my acknowledgements, I acknowledge a lady I used to work for called Susan Train when I used to work at American Vogue in Paris. My boss was this extraordinary woman called Susan Train, and she taught me a great many things. But really the most important of all the things that she taught me was how to make a good list, how to work a good list. That was and honestly, that you think, is that really that exciting? You know what? When you know how to manage lists like I do, thank you very much, Susan. And I would not have necessarily got there on my own. I needed Susan to tell me that. And when I was at Vogue also, I used to work with a man, a really lovely fellow called Talley, who was about 7 foot tall, enormously tall, and I'm quite short. So we were like a comedy act, the two of us. But he was very kind, and always remembered we small, irrelevant people. These are lavenders, by the way. And he used to bring us presents back from his adventures at Prada. I remember I got a really lovely Miu Miu basket once. sadly gone the way of all things. Anyway, Andre taught me to take what I did seriously, even if other people thought it frivolous. And again, that was a really, really important lesson. So I do a job which some of my old friends, I won't name names, have kind of slightly disparagingly described as a lifestyle business in the past. And they can do what they like. They can describe it how they like. Andre Talley gave me permission to take what I do seriously. So it might be, it is a lifestyle business. And actually I've learned to turn that into, that's a compliment as far as I'm concerned. But Andre was the one who said, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter if other people think what you do is frivolous, you must take it seriously and do it as if it really matters, because then it will work. And I think that's a really major gift, because I have always taken my flower growing for sale very, very, very seriously, which means that I charge properly. I respect the business. I understand that if I don't charge properly, I won't be able to do it. I take myself very seriously. I take my learning seriously. And I take my development as a flower farmer seriously. And that's all thanks to dear old Andre. And sadly, Andre and Susan are both no longer with us. But in their tiny, well, not in a tiny little way, both of them are acknowledged as having had a great effect every day, particularly by me. So when you think about when you're very old or when you're dead, we're all going to die, come on. When you're dead, what is it that you would like people to remember about you? I bet Andre would absolutely roar with laughter if I said that I remember him every day when I take what I do seriously. If I go back to the whole thing at the beginning of why transferable skills, that is a really massive skill to be able to take yourself seriously, even if other people don't. So thank you very much, Andre. And I learned that when I was working for American Vogue in Paris. Beg your pardon. And who would have thought it would be something that I would think about every day here in Somerset while I'm pricking out my lavender cuttings. Right, so there are some lavender. So whatever your skills are, I'm very fast at typing. You think, well, what's typing got to do with being a flower farmer? Well, it means I can write blogs and I can write newsletters and I can do the administration of the business really fast. Now, that's a great gift. And then I get to spend the rest of the day outside potting on my seedlings. Anyway, let's go and have a look at what else I've got to do. I'm going to do a bit more of this potting on, and then I'll take you on a little bit of a walk around. Why am I such a good typist? Well, because when I went to see the careers lady at school, she was called Miss Raven, she said, well, I think you should be a typist and go to secretarial college, because you're a girl and you're at a good convent school. And that's what girls who went to good convent schools in the 80s were advised to do. And actually, I'm very grateful to Miss Raven. Also, I don't know where Miss Raven is. She may no longer be with us. This was in 1986 or something. So, very long time ago. But Miss Raven said, go and learn to type. So I goodly went to learn to type. And actually, that's a skill that has stood me in good stead ever since. So I'm grateful, Miss Raven. I did become a secretary. I was a secretary for many years. I did lots of secretarial work, but that's great because it means that I have an eye for detail and I pay attention. I always spell people's names right. Yeah, I think having trained as a secretary gave me good administrative skills. I may not like having to exercise the admin part of it, but I like being good at typing. Anyway, if you're pricking out or putting on seedlings, put them in a tray in the shade when you do it, and keep the tray full of water, and pay attention because they drink. They're really thirsty, and so don't leave them thinking that they've got water. You need to refill the water from time to time. And I'm just going to leave them in the shade for the afternoon. It's a very bright day, and I don't want them to be freaked out by too much harsh sunlight. And the same even with these little tiny Nicotiana seedlings that I showed you before. How small can you be if you're a seedling? You can be very, very small. Nicotiana really likes to be pricked out when it's really very small. So that's why I've pricked it out very, very small. Right, on we go. Right, you can tell when your potted on cuttings or seedlings have had enough to drink tea cake, because they weigh a lot. So these pots, they've been sitting there for an hour or so, and they're really heavy. So I'm going to take the heavy ones and put them in the shade down by the greenhouse. But I'm leaving the lighter ones that I've just done for another hour or so. So let's go and play some seedling Tetris. And a note on numbers. So I've got 18. I potted them up 3 at a time. These are cardoons, which are great for floristry, really dramatic, big, tall florists, but great material for big floristry in the summer. But they're equal. At the moment, they're just equal. So I've potted them up 3 at a time. I don't think I'll keep all 18 for myself. I don't think I need 18. I'll probably keep 12 for the flower farm. I don't anticipate an enormous market for cardoons in this corner of southeast Somerset. I do anticipate a small market, very specialist from my luxury wedding flowers colleagues. So I'll keep maybe 12, which means that I'll have 3 pots of 3 cardoons, which in 6 weeks will be a good deal bigger than this. They'll be good sized little plants for the plant sale. So it's really satisfying. You're like, okay, some for me, some for you, some for me, some for you. And I cannot solve the world's problems, but I can do some for me and some for you and some for me and some for you. And it gives me pleasure and makes me feel as though I'm making a tiny little bit of difference. I'm helping where I can without getting bogged down in what I can't. So do think about having a plant sale. We call them common good plant sales. We do them for the common good. Anyway, on we go. So these lot I'm going to leave to carry on having a little drink in the shade. And we'll take these people down and put them in a shady greenhouse. So this is where we have 2 polytunnels and 2 greenhouses. And you can see the seedling Tetris is real here. So what I'm going to do is this is nice and shady, and because it's got the hedge behind it. And so these seedlings and little cuttings that I put it on, they will like this shade. It's a cold greenhouse. It doesn't have any heating, but it's going to freeze tonight. Juggling. But I will put the tender seedlings at the tenderest, the most tender seedlings at the far end, the least tender coming this way. And actually, I'm going to make some room. So, these are I think they're Leonora Sibirica. If I look. What does it say? Does it say anything? They should say something. Motherwort. And this is the purple variety. I'm about to sow the white variety. No, I have sown the white variety. It's up. But this is pretty hardy. So I'm going to put this in my hardening off bench even though it's going to freeze tonight, and I will fling a bit of fleece over it. But it's coming up because I have to play Tetris to make room for everything. Il n'y a pas de place. Also hardy enough to be going up to my hardening off bench. Vicaria hispanica. I've got to make room. I haven't got room otherwise. And Amivisnaga. So I'm going to juggle everything round. These will go up the top. Right, I'm not going to make you watch me juggle. I'll rearrange everything and we'll come back later. It's quite hot in here, but look. Whoop, there's the white motherwort just germinating this week, along with some Leonotis leonoris. That's 2 up. There are only about 12 in the packet. What's up behind it? Nothing up in the next one yet. And then we've got, oh, this is quite exciting. I've not grown this before. At the back there, that's Galliga officinalis, the lilac colour on the left. And there's 1 of the white. 2 of the white are up on the right. Exciting. And in the front, these are tansy. Must make sure they're not left out of the cover. And then dahlias sprouting. Look. There they come. Bing, bing, bing. Oh yes, hello friends. I'm not supposed to be growing many dahlias, but I seem to find myself in a position to be taking some cuttings. You know, when you do things inadvertently. This is why I really had to become a flower farmer, because I can't help grow plants. And I'm really rubbish. I would be a rubbish nursery woman. So you know that thing I was talking about earlier about how you make a job out of the thing that you really like to do. So I really like to grow lots of plants, but I don't like keeping lots of plants alive in pots. So therefore I can't be a nursery woman. But I do like planting things, and I love cutting and arranging flowers. So therefore I'm a flower farmer. Lucky me. And so the plant sale, every time I prick anything out and I got some spares, I do a few for the plant sale. So these are all for the plant sale on the 10th of May. And I expect by then I will have planted out some of these snapdragons. Look, the snaps have got... I pricked out the snaps into a tray in which I had been germinating Vicaria hispanica. And clearly there was still some ungerminated Vicaria hispanica seed. But that's all right. So I'll have some spare of those to put for the plant sale. And these mostly are for the plant sale. Some for me. So this is Morning Glory for me. But big pots of Morning Glory for the plant sale. And I'm slightly flying by the seat of my pants because it's a bit cool for them. But I wanted big plants by the time the sale came along. We'll see whether they survive. You can see how... Look, these are nasturtiums, which actually have recovered, but have had a bit of a time of it with the weather. They've been nipped, and it's going to be quite cool tonight. But we'll hope for the best. And then this is for the plant sale. This is some for me. I probably have 5 of them. This is Spanish flag. You know, lovely, bright orange. It's an annual climber. And these are helichrysum, which are very happy. More helichrysum. But you see, I've now made myself some space. Ha 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 ha. And there are more in here. These will be pricked out next. And I'm going to cover them. So they've been uncovered all day. Hot, sunny day. But it's 4:30, and so the temperature suddenly drops, and it's forecast to be 2 degrees, so we're often a little bit colder than the forecast. So I'm going to cover them up like I have. So these are the little tiny Nicotiana that I was showing you earlier. So they've come in here and I'm covering them up, and I'm going to cover them, give them all a little protection from the frost. Look, so I've just got room for the rest of those seedlings which are hot, are just soaking up their water, and I'll bring them down and put them in here. But I'm going to shut the door now because the forecast is quite chilly, not freezing, but we can be a degree or two colder. So I'm closing the door so that this cool greenhouse warms up in the last of the sun to keep them warm overnight. So I'm playing a little bit more seedling Tetris here. And this is a great place to put seedlings when you're hardening off. You see this lovely red wall? I have this colour because I like it, but also it absorbs heat. On a lovely sunny day like today, it absorbs heat, and then overnight the heat radiates out from the wall, and my little friends here will be protected, so I can start hardening them off, even though we've got very cold weather. Well, it's not that cold. We've got 2 degrees Celsius forecast tonight. We might be a little bit colder. I'm confident that this area out here will be frosted, but this area won't. And so my little friends, again, I have to make more room. My little friends will be able to harden off nicely with the protection of this wall. What they won't like, oddly, it's quite windy, and so they're going to protest about the wind, and they might sulk. But I'll give them an hour or so, and then I'll see if I lose my nerve. And if I lose my nerve, I will give them just a layer of fleece to protect them overnight. But if you've got a wood wall, or a brick wall, or a stone wall, and it faces west, it's a great way to harden off your seedlings against that wall. If you put tiny seedlings against an east-facing wall, if it's a really sunny morning and you've had a cold night, the sun will come up and hit them too hard too quickly, and you risk them literally sort of melting. Whereas the sun doesn't get round to this side of the building until after lunch. It's only the 30th of March. Tomorrow is still 31st of March. So it's a lovely day, but it is only March. So the sun won't get round here until lunchtime tomorrow, possibly later. So they will have all morning in the cool, not a dramatic different temperature from the temperatures that it was when they were at night. And so they won't be too shocked by a sunny morning. These things really make a huge difference. Anyway, there you are. That's enough seedling Tetris. Some of these are for the plant sale. For example, some little scabious. So every time I pot on or prick out, I do a couple for the plant sale, which makes me feel like I'm doing a good thing. Some for me, and some for you, and some for me, and some for you. I will admit, I'm very much driven by the urge to make a living. Partly because otherwise I wouldn't be able to eat, but partly because some of my friends and peer group have always thought that flower farming for a living was amusing. So that's when I bring on Andre Talley saying, doesn't matter if other people think what you do is frivolous, take it seriously yourself. So there's that. But also I really like, while being very focused on making a living, I like the fact that I can do a thing from time to time for other people. And the plant sale is my thing. Anyway, I'm going to go off now and drink vermouth with my children. And I hope that the children have cooked some lunch, which in this house we always have lunch on a Sunday at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because we're weird like that. But it suits us. It means we can do a load of stuff and then we don't have to eat supper, which is too filling and late. But we can get up late on a Sunday morning. Today we went to church. We got up late, we went to church, and then have kind of brunch, and then have supper at 5 o'clock, and then we're done. Works for me. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye. You know, they say when you go out to your seedlings in the greenhouse, it's a really good idea to run your hand through them. And what you're doing is getting them used to being in a situation where there's wind, because otherwise it's very shocking. The wind is also shocking. But poor little darlings, they're only ickle plants, so they need to be prepared for weather if they're brought up in a greenhouse. And that includes wind. And it is a bit windy today.